He was America's most trusted morning man, greeting 8 million viewers every weekday, steering the national conversation and forging friendships with presidents, celebrities, and foreign leaders. Matt Lauer's warm smile and easy rapport on NBC's Today show made him a staple of breakfast tables for over 2 decades. Yet the fall from that ivory perch was as swift as it was brutal. In November 2017, allegations of sexual misconduct brought his career crashing down, and he was fired on the spot. No public apology, no redemption tour, just an immediate plunge from A-list anchor to taboo figure. Now, more than 6 years later, Matt Lauer is effectively blacklisted from every major media platform. This is the story of how he built an empire, how it all unraveled in an instant, and what remains of his life today. Far away from the studio lights, Lauer's journey began in the humblest of newsrooms. Born in 1957 in New York City, he cut his teeth in local radio and regional television, WNBC-AM in Scranton, Pennsylvania, WTVH-TV in Syracuse, WNBC-TV in New York. His relentless work ethic and boundless curiosity set him apart. In 1986, he joined Today as a news reporter, covering everything from political conventions to natural disasters. Producers quickly noticed his natural chemistry with hosts, his knack for eliciting heartfelt confessions in interviews, and his ability to pivot from hard news to human interest stories without missing a beat. By 1994, Lauer had earned a coveted co-anchor seat alongside Katie Couric and Bryant Gumbel. His tenure coincided with Today's golden era. Ratings soared, advertising revenues tripled, and his star power became leverage for NBC. He interviewed icons like Nelson Mandela and Princess Diana. He conducted 24 political debates. He pulled off lightning-fast impromptu segments with pilgrims on the Vatican steps. Each morning, Lauer showcased his locker room banter, joking with colleagues Bakery Sellers or Al Roker, while maintaining an image of tough but fair journalism. Those decades of hardened routines, jet-setting, and on-camera precision built a lifestyle few could imagine. A 2015 report estimated his annual compensation at $20 million. Network contracts gave him a bonus for every 10th million viewers. Endorsement deals with tech firms, car makers, and financial brands layered additional millions. He and his then-wife, Annette Roque, purchased a vineyard in the Hamptons, a sprawling Connecticut estate, and condos in Manhattan and Paris. His social calendar overflowed with charity galas, invitation-only dinners, and private retreats with high-profile executives. He didn't just deliver the news. He lived the dream life that people saw him live, but behind the suave on-air persona, whispers began to circulate. In 2001, a Today staffer, too afraid to go public, pulled aside a colleague and complained about Lauer's locker room talk. At the time, it was easy to dismiss as boys being boys. In 2009 and again in 2014, HR memos noted complaints of inappropriate physical contact during segment rehearsals. Yet NBC's culture then rewarded ratings above all, and Lauer was their golden goose. Internal investigations went nowhere. Complaints were hushed up, deals were made, and Lauer's unofficial rule required one low-level assistant to follow him dressing room to ensure no surprises. Those secret payoffs and non-disclosure agreements festered beneath the surface for years. Meanwhile, the #MeToo movement erupted in October 2017, and Matt Lauer's carefully curated reputation became a glaring target. On November 29th, the network received a detailed allegation. Female employees coerced into inappropriate encounters in a locked office during late-night segments. Within hours, executive producers convened an emergency call. By lunchtime the next day, Lauer was summoned to HR, handed a severance package and an NDA, and escorted off Rockefeller Plaza. His colleagues, Savannah Guthrie, Hoda Kotb, Al Roker, watched in stunned silence as his desk was cleared live on the air. The fallout was instantaneous. Sponsors yanked ads. Today's show ratings plummeted. Internal morale cratered. NBC News chairman Andy Lack admitted the network had lost the trust of our viewers and vowed never to tolerate a repeat. Legal teams raced to contain further claims. Lauer's name became toxic. Brands publicly condemned him. Talk show hosts equated him with Harvey Weinstein. The hashtag Matt Lauer trended globally, but not in admiration. Furious former staffers recounted tawdry tales, fueling a media-feeding frenzy. Once the dust settled, Lauer vanished from public view. Unlike some disgraced celebrities who mounted comeback attempts, he retreated entirely. No Netflix specials, no podcast launches, no op-ed columns. His high-powered lawyers negotiated a rumored $20 million non-compete in exchange for silence, meaning he could collect a lump sum payout, but couldn't work for any network for years. The deal reportedly prohibited any media employment until at least 2022. With a multi-million severance and real estate assets largely debt-free, Lauer could afford to stay hidden, but there was more at stake than money. His brand was irrevocably tarnished. In exile, Lauer's life shifted from red carpets to solitude. Neighbors in Montauk reported seeing him walking dogs on the beach at dawn, hoodie pulled low, avoiding eye contact. In Connecticut, he tended a modest vegetable garden behind his mansion, maintaining a private routine miles away from camera crews. Once known for energetic interviews and public displays of charisma, he became a man who sent family Christmas cards at most, and at least posed for no public portrait. He read theology, studied Buddhist meditation, and underwent multiple therapy sessions. Sources say he's grappling with grief, shame, and a loss of identity that once revolved around audience applause. Financially, Lauer's nest egg remains ample but static. His NBC pension pays out roughly $60,000 per month. Investments in index funds and bonds generate 5% yields, yielding $2 million annually. Rental income from an Upper East Side apartment adds another $200,000 a year. But his prime earning years are gone. With his name on indefinite professional blacklist lists, any attempt to pitch a sports commentary gig or a political analysis segment is instantly rebuffed. Media conglomerates, wary of public backlash, refuse even to return his calls. Meanwhile, his ex-wife Annette faced a protracted divorce and custody battle, but they reached a settlement allowing her to retain the Hamptons' vineyard and half of their liquid assets. Their 3 children, Jack, Romy, and Tejas, are now young adults, shielded as best they can from headlines, attending college under privacy agreements. They visit their father occasionally, but steer clear of cameras. In interviews, they acknowledge the pain and confusion of losing a once visible parent, yet insist on loving him despite the scandal. Family friends report that Lauer writes them long handwritten letters, apologizing for the pain he caused and urging them to forge their own paths. In 2021, when the non-compete clause expired, industry insiders speculated on a possible Matt Lauer 2.0, a self-produced podcast about media ethics, or a consulting firm guiding crisis management. Instead, the silence continued. No social media profiles, no ambassador roles, no televised apologies. His media feeds remain empty. No tweets, no LinkedIn posts, no YouTube uploads. The networks made it clear, Lauer's brand is radioactive. Advertisers shun his name. Producers disavow his participation. At 56 years old, he has no public platform left. Yet some journalists argue that Lauer's story is a cautionary tale about toxic workplace cultures. Books and documentaries now explore NBC's complicity, with Lauer as the face of institutional failure. His name shows up in whistleblower lawsuits and congressional hearings, debates over non-disclosure agreements, and the silencing of victims. Although he remains out of sight, his shadow shapes ongoing policy changes. Media executives institute third-party complaint hotlines, implement bystander intervention training, and eliminate forced arbitration clauses in rare private gatherings. Former peers speak of a man whose downfall they still struggle to reconcile with the genial colleague they knew. Some whisper that Lauer is writing a memoir, hoping to tell his side in a book deal that might start at $1 million. But without a viable publicist or publisher willing to face backlash, those rumors never materialized. He may have penned pages of reflection, but they remain locked away, possibly stashed in a leather-bound journal buried deep in a Montauk drawer. Today, Matt Lauer lives in a self-imposed exile, financially secure, socially diminished, professionally outcast. He will never work again on national television because his reputation, once spotless, became irrevocably smudged. In the end, his fall demonstrates how quickly privilege can evaporate under the weight of moral failure. and how modern media brooks no comeback for those who betray public trust. Whether he finds a path to redemption in private life remains unknown, but one truth stands clear. The man who once ruled morning television will never wake up to that spotlight again. In the years following his abrupt exit from NBC, Matt Lauer's world shrank from broadcast studios and red carpets to the quiet corridors of financial and personal restructuring. When his non-compete expired in late 2022, the media industry braced for a possible Matt Lauer comeback. Instead, he remained resolutely out of sight, stepping into a vastly different daily rhythm and a far more constrained professional landscape. First, a look at the numbers underlying his new routine. Lauer's severance and deferred compensation package, rumored to total around $40 million, was paid out over several years under strict confidentiality clauses. He also retained his NBC pension, estimated at roughly $720,000 per year before taxes, indexed for cost of living increases. Investments in low-volatility index funds, treasury bonds, and a diversified portfolio of blue-chip dividend stocks yield an additional $1.2 million annually. Real estate holdings, his Connecticut estate, Montauk Beach House, and that Upper East Side rental property, generate about $500,000 more in combined rental income each year. Altogether, Lauer's passive cash flows comfortably exceed $2.5 million per year without requiring any active work. Yet those figures mask a fundamental shift. For the first time in 3 decades, he lacks a mechanism to grow his income through new media roles. No anchor chair, no speaking tours, no guest hosting gigs, which in his prime could command $50,000, $100,000 per appearance, are available now. Networks and streaming platforms conduct reputational risk analyses before signing talent. A single adverse public reaction can scuttle an entire project. Matt Lauer's name remains a red flag in executive offices, his legacy irretrievably tainted by scandal. So what has occupied his days? According to neighbors and occasional friends, Lauer's life revolves around family, therapy, and a self-designed routine aimed at both healing and financial prudence. He reportedly consults twice weekly with a high-end therapist specializing in shame and public figure trauma, paying $1,000 per session out of pocket. Morning routines begin at 6 a.m. with meditation and yoga in a converted barn on his Connecticut property. He tends a substantial vegetable garden, tomatoes, collard greens, and heirloom squash, and prepares simple meals to ground himself in physical routine rather than the whirlwind of on-camera glamour. Social contact is carefully rationed. Lauer maintains close ties with his 3 adult children, Jack, Romy, and Tejas, who now live out of the spotlight and handle their own college and career paths. He sends them handwritten letters, rare, deeply introspective missives reflecting on personal accountability and the sting of irreparable public disgrace. Extended family gatherings are strictly private, no photos, no press inquiries. Friends describe his social calendar as minimal, perhaps a round of golf with college mates once a month, a close-knit circle at a local community center, but nothing approaching the industry invitations or gala appearances of his former life. On the financial planning front, Lauer has engaged a boutique wealth management firm that specializes in high-net-worth clients undergoing major life transitions. Their playbook for him includes 1. Conservative asset allocation, heavy on fixed income. 2. Generous emergency funds to cover legal fees or potential defamation suits, given periodic rumors of unpublished allegations. And 3. Tax-efficient structures, S-corporations, and limited partnerships, to shelter dividend and rental income from high federal and state rates. These strategies keep his effective tax rate near 25%, below the roughly 33% that many in his income bracket face, preserving more capital for longevity. Despite his professional exile, rumors swirl about a potential memoir or tell-all book deal. Agents have approached him privately, offering advances in the $1 million to $2 million range for an unvarnished account of NBC's culture and his personal failings. But anywhere upward of a $250,000 legal review fee and the risk of any new allegations emerging has deterred Lauer from signing. His legal team reportedly vetoes every such proposal, citing NDA obligations from both NBC and private settlements with former staffers. The result: no new publishing contract, no residual income from a book, no visible path to public redemption. Charitable work, once a staple of his goodwill efforts, has also receded. In his Today-era peak, Lauer was on the boards of at least 5 nonprofits, children's hospitals, literacy foundations, and youth journalism programs. Now, his name has largely vanished from those rosters. Board positions tend to require public appearances and networking events, risks he can't take. According to insiders, he stepped down from all nonprofit boards by 2019, redirecting philanthropic gifts through anonymous foundations or donor-advised funds. That approach allows him to give back. He reportedly donates up to $200,000 annually to education and mental health causes, without any public scrutiny or brand association. One area where Lauer has quietly engaged is media consultancy for internal corporate training on newsroom ethics and #MeToo compliance. A few mid-sized local stations, unconcerned with national headlines, have quietly paid him 6-figure fees to design workshops addressing boundary awareness in the workplace. These engagements are conducted under strict confidentiality. No names on certificates of completion, no recordings, just closed-door sessions in anonymous office parks. Marketers estimate 2 or 3 such gigs per year, each netting $75000 to $125,000 before expenses, enough to remind him of his former expertise without triggering public backlash. Meanwhile, some former colleagues have moved on. Al Roker now anchors his own weather franchise. Hoda Kotb co-hosts Today with minimal surprises. Savannah Guthrie commands top talent fees for advocacy speaking. Lauer's absence is still noted in trade publications as a cautionary footnote. What a brilliant career path turned into overnight oblivion. This continued industry chasm underscores the permanence of his professional exile. A final wrinkle in his financial landscape: NBC's clawback provisions. Although Lauer's severance predated strict corporate clawbacks for misconduct, multiple former staffers have attempted private arbitration to reclaim bonus payments or out-of-court settlements. To guard against surprise demands, Lauer's wealth managers maintain a reserve fund, roughly $5 million in liquid assets, earmarked for any future legal exposure. Once those clawback periods expire, likely by 2025, this reserve will be redeployed into income-producing vehicles, boosting his passive yield by another $200,000 per year. Looking ahead, Matt Lauer's projected earnings for 2025 will hover around $3 million, entirely passive income, minus legal and living expenses. No matter how comfortable that sounds, it represents a stark transition from a $20 million a year on-air salary plus endorsements to a fixed portfolio return divorced from personal effort or public engagement. The man who once started his day with a live audience of 8 million now begins it alone, with only the hum of his refrigerator and a whisper of wind through his garden that I in some. Matt Lauer's life today is a study in contrasts. Financially, he's secure, arguably in better shape than many peers who burned out or mismanaged fame. Yet professionally, he's an outcast, stripped of his platform and forbidden even to consult openly in the medium he once dominated. His daily existence reflects both the resilience of decades-old wealth structures and the ruinous consequences of ethical lapses in the era of instantaneous public reckoning. As 2025 approaches, Lauer's name may still carry weight in off-the-record boardrooms, but not on national television. One truth remains: his financial fortress shields him, but his reputation's fractured walls keep him forever locked out of the spotlight he once owned. In many ways, Matt Lauer's story is a parable of modern fame. Sky-high privilege tethered to an equally precipitous fall, and the realization that no pension or portfolio can fully replenish a tarnished reputation. As he moves toward 2025, his life has settled into a quiet routine shaped as much by regret as by financial security. Without new media roles to define his identity, he has become a student of personal reinvention, albeit one constrained by public distrust. What does a morning man's day look like when mornings no longer come with a live audience or a producer's stopwatch? Insiders describe him rising at dawn in his Connecticut home, slipping into running shoes, and jogging a winding half-mile loop through the artisanal cheese farm across the road. He greets workers in muted tones, sometimes pausing to chat about soil quality or livestock health, topics far removed from global news headlines. His mornings unfold in solitude, punctuated by sessions with a voice coach who helps him reclaim parts of his vocals for nonprofit voiceovers and private narration gigs. Though he cannot headline a network broadcast, he occasionally records guided meditations for a faith-based wellness app under a pseudonym, earning modest fees and practicing humility in his craft. Lunch is often a picnic he assembles himself: roasted root vegetables, quinoa salad, herbal tea. He eats on a weathered bench overlooking a small pond where koi swim in lazy circles, an image that stands in sharp contrast to the studio sets and manicured backlit gardens that once framed his on-air life. It's said he finds comfort in the koi's simple persistence, their steady paddling through murky water reminding him that resilience sometimes looks like just keeping your head above the surface. Afternoon hours are reserved for philanthropy administered from behind the scenes. Lauer serves as an anonymous advisor to a nonprofit legal fund that supports survivors of workplace misconduct seeking to navigate complex arbitration clauses. Though his name is absent from press releases, legal documents list him as a founding donor. He reviews grant applications and impact reports via encrypted online portals, offering guidance based on his own experiences observing corporate HR mishandling abuse claims. In this capacity, he channels remorse into tangible support, quietly funding mentorship programs for women entering journalism, ensuring they have explicit workplace protections he once saw ignored. Evenings often find him at a local community theater where he volunteers backstage. The world-famous anchor trades network spotlight for footlamp glow, adjusting lighting cues and hauling set props. Under the stage's utilitarian bulbs, he has found a measure of redemption in service. Theater staff speak highly of his willingness to learn technical skills. He's become adept at programming soundboards and setting up microphones, skills that once formed the backbone of his on-air work. In that subterranean realm, he's valued as a team player, shielded by anonymity from audience judgment. Social life remains sparse. A small circle of college friends gathers once a month for a potluck in a discreet barn on a neighboring property. They share food, vintage records, and unguarded conversation. Here, away from cameras, Lauer confesses his ongoing struggle with purpose. The irony that after decades spent chasing ratings and public adulation, he now wrestles with the question of meaning in a life defined by absence. Friends listen without reproach, offering reminders that his willingness to confront the fallout head-on may yet point the way to a new form of influence, one measured in empathy rather than airtime. That, of course, temptation lingers. Like many public figures in exile, he receives periodic overtures, a specialty podcast wanting a co-host on media ethics, a boutique video channel proposing a day in the life docuseries, a boutique New York gallery eyeing a photo exhibition of his best-known headshots. But each offer risks reopening deep wounds and may contravene NDAs or trigger further backlash. His advisors have instructed a strict no public work policy until at least 2027, warding off any potential missteps and allowing more time for the cultural tide to recede. Financially, Lauer's situation is enviable but stagnant. With real estate cycles flattening and high-yield bonds offering only modest returns, his annual passive income hovers near $3 million, offset by living expenses, property taxes, and legal retainer fees. He has resisted temptation to chase quick gains in volatile fintech or celebrity-driven NFT ventures, mindful that misjudged tech plays could wipe out years of steady returns. Conservative financial planning includes a reserve for potential future claims. Though no new allegations have surfaced since 2018, he remains exposed to lawsuits from parties who accepted hush money settlements years ago. That legal dark fund, currently pegged at $5 million, sits ready in escrow should another claim materialize. Keep his mind engaged. Lauer has immersed himself in lifelong learning. He audits graduate courses in journalism ethics at a nearby university, sitting unobtrusively at the back of the lecture hall, taking meticulous notes, and sometimes offering gentle critiques during Q&A when invited. Professors report that his questions, posed with humility, enrich discussions about the evolving landscape of media accountability. It's a far cry from delivering hard news segments. Yet these academic forays give him a measure of intellectual purpose and connection to the next generation of storytellers. As night falls, he may retreat to a private library wing constructed above the barn. There, on oak bookshelves, sit volumes on media law, religious philosophy, and Eastern meditation practices. He pores over case studies of historical figures who rebounded from scandal. Richard Nixon's later work on civic education, or Mary Magdalene's rehabilitated legacy in theological scholarship, seeking frameworks for his own moral journey. A small journal lies open on a side table, filled with passages of self-reflection and occasional poem drafts exploring themes of fallibility and forgiveness. Despite his enforced renunciation of the public square, Matt Lauer's ripple effect persists in unexpected ways. His downfall catalyzed NBC's overhaul of internal complaint mechanisms, mandatory third-party investigation firms, global training modules, and severance agreements voided if misconduct is discovered. These policy changes have cascaded across corporate America, influencing Fortune 500 companies to adopt zero-tolerance measures and more transparent HR protocols. In this sense, Lauer's exile has contributed to systemic reforms, an ironic postscript to his on-air career as 2025 dawns. His legacy remains a cautionary footnote in media history. He will not reclaim his spot on morning television, because the institution that once crowned him anchor no longer defines his identity. Yet he persists in carving a life beyond cameras, tending koi ponds at dawn, volunteering under stage lights at dusk, and wrestling with his own conscience in silent reflection. Financially insulated, he forgoes luxury vacations and red carpet galas for quiet retreats with a handful of friends. His name may never return to headlines in a positive light, but the contours of his new existence suggest that even a man exiled by his own misdeeds can discover purpose in anonymity. In the end, Matt Lauer's story is not one of triumphant return, but of enforced humility. With a bank account that many would envy and a public persona resigned to history, he models an alternative path to find meaning not in the roar of millions, but in small acts of service, personal growth, and the long, deliberate repair of a life once defined by spotlight. Though he will never again unlock a teleprompter or greet a live studio audience, his quiet persistence may yet teach a generation that the only lasting anchor in life is accountability, and that true redemption, if ever possible, lives in deeds unseen and voices unheard.